Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is April 3rd, 2022. You're now watching Real Talk with Ronnie live. And, today is a very, very special day. Today, we are on Salem Media via AM 970. And we are starting this today. Today's our first show on Salem. So please tune in on radio. So now you can see us on Facebook, on YouTube, on GETTR, on Rumble, and you can also listen to us on Salem via AM 970. So I just want to say something about this show. When I first started this show 2 years ago, on April 5th of 2020. It started off as a show where I would just interview my friends from all different countries about how COVID was affecting their nations, right? And it started off as a little bit of like a passion project. Little did I know that nearly 2 years to the day, this show would turn into what it is today, right? So, nearly 2 years to the day, we are premiering on Salem Media Group, one of the biggest media companies in the world, right? With a huge market. And I'm just so incredibly proud and grateful and thankful for all the people who have made this possible, right? Well, first of all, I want to thank God. I want to thank my family, my parents, my wife, and my kids, for all their, their support. I want to thank my friends, right? The people who believed in me, my sponsors, my donors. But most importantly, I want to thank my guests who make this show great. And lastly, but surely but not least, my great viewers. So I want to thank the viewers for making this show so popular. Anyway, from here on out is only upward and onward, right? So we're going to do great things on our show tonight and on our inaugural show on Salem Radio. I'm very proud to welcome two huge guests. My first guest is Mr. Ryan Kelley. Ryan Kelley is running for governor in the state of Michigan. He is a GOP candidate in a crowded field, but it seems like he's got a pretty good shot at getting the nomination. So my first guest is Ryan D. Kelley. My second guest is no stranger to Jersey politics. And if you live in Jersey or in this, this tri-state, region, you've got to know this guy. And then actually, this guy made national news this year or last year for almost unseating Democrat Governor Phil Murphy. That's right. The second show on my guest tonight is Mr. Jack Ciattarelli, the 2021 GOP nominee for governor of New Jersey. He came within 2.5 points of unseating Phil Murphy. He really energized our party and our state and brought hope, right? Brought hope. Under Jack's leadership, the GOP in New Jersey scored its best outcome in nearly 30 years. We picked up a number of seats in the state legislature, and I think that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? Next year, or actually this year, we have another big race. The U.S. House, the U.S. Senate is up for grabs, and then in 24 we have the presidential race. So Jack Ciattarelli is my second guest, but let me bring on my first guest, Mr. Ryan D. Kelley.
Maybe you taste different. Hold up, babe.
All right, guys. So the first guest on our inaugural show on Salem Radio is Mr. Ryan D. Kelley. Ryan D. Kelley is currently running for governor in the great state of Michigan. He is a Republican candidate, and we want to thank you, Ryan, for coming on.
Good to be here, Ronnie. Thank you. It's so exciting. This is the inaugural show here. It's a privilege to be your first guest on here.
Thank you, Ryan, for coming on. And I want to say that I'm very proud and excited to have my show air on Salem Media Group via AM 970. We're going to be on it every Sunday night from 8 to 9 p.m. So please tune in to Real Talk with Ronnie. Now, Ryan, let's dive right in, right? But before we do that, I want to congratulate you because I heard that your wife gave birth to your sixth child last weekend, right?
Yes, sir. Our fourth son. It's amazing. Yeah, we've got a big family, strong supporters of the nuclear family and big families.
Wow. My wife, she recently gave birth to our second child last year in December. So now I've got two little boys. And they're like a handful, but I can't imagine 6 kids.
It's a lot. It is. We have to have good systems in the house in order to make sure that everything continues to go smooth. And my older kids are very helpful, so it makes it so things are much easier.
Perfect. Now, Ryan, for the audience that's tuning in tonight, can you please tell us about yourself, about your background, and why you want to become the next governor of Michigan?
A great question. Thank you. My name is Ryan Kelley, candidate for Michigan governor. I live in West Michigan. I've lived in Michigan for 35 years. I'm 40 years old. My history, a little snapshot of that. I'm a real estate broker. I own my own real estate firm here in West Michigan. I've been in the real estate industry for about 12 years in various capacities. I owned a real estate investment firm for a while, and then partnered with some people to create a franchise, was the CEO of that company for about 18 months. Previous to that, I worked as a union employee for AT&T. I was part of the CWA, so very familiar with union contract negotiations and what it's like to actually have a job. So many people running for office these days, they're career politicians or they're multi-generational politicians where their parents make all the connections for them and they step into this career of politics, which has really put our state here in Michigan and our country as a whole in a relatively large downward spiral from what government is truly instituted to do, which is to represent the people, to uphold our God-given rights, and to make sure that our country is a place where people can prosper under what our country was founded on. And you ask why I'm running for governor of Michigan. I was very vocal throughout all of 2020, pushing back here in Michigan against what Gretchen Whitmer was doing and being a voice for freedom, a voice for hope for the state of Michigan, really for the entire country. And Michigan is such a corrupt place. And I mentioned the career politicians and the multi-generational politicians. There's a lot of that in Michigan. And our constitutional republic needs strong leaders that want to step up and realign our country with our founding so that we can preserve freedom for those next generations. And that's a huge component of what I'm doing here in Michigan. It's very exciting. We have huge statewide support, massive momentum for my campaign. It is all grassroots. It's truly amazing to watch and see.
Okay, great. Now you mentioned that your wife just had a baby. You got 6 kids right now. You have your own company, so your hands are actually pretty full. When you wanted to jump into politics, what was the reaction from your family?
It was something that actually my wife is the one who came up with the idea in the first place because of all the things that I was doing throughout 2020. She kind of urged me like, hey, you want to try to make a bigger difference and run for office. And there's a lot of prayer that went into it. Faith plays a huge role in my life, in my marriage, the relationship with my kids. And it was a conversation that we were able to have as a family over the course of several months to understand what it would mean for me to step into a candidacy running for a statewide office, the time commitment that goes along with it, some of the attacks that come from being in that space, especially with somebody like myself with strong conservative views. I don't get treated very nicely by those on the left. And so it was a conversation with my family to really understand what that meant for our family. And my children know that America is a constitutional republic. God is the most important thing. Family is number 2, and then country. So God, family, country. And they know exactly what I'm in the fight for. We talk about it often, and we use it as a way for us to grow stronger as a family in our faith, in our family, and for our country.
Great. Now, in Michigan, the governor there, Gretchen Whitmer, she is now running for her second term, right?
She is, yeah. Her first election was in 2018. Now she's up for re-election, and it's going to be a very interesting next 4 months leading up to the primary, and then those following 3 months leading up to the general election. We all understand that Gretchen Whitmer and many other governors throughout 2020, all the things that they did with the lockdowns, the hypocrisy, rules for thee, not for them, the list goes on. And Gretchen Whitmer probably tops the lists of governors with her, tyrannical lockdowns and all the things that she's done. But it's one of those things where, election year politics. And we see in Michigan, she's doing everything she can to spin back. And really, truly what she's doing is manipulating people. And she's acting moderate, possibly a little, even slanted right in some of her decisions that she's making, because she knows that the lockdowns aren't popular, mandates aren't popular. And so it's going to be a very interesting year. We have to combat not only with remembering who she truly is, but strong, true conservative solutions for the state that can affect all Michiganders.
Okay. Now, are there other candidates on the GOP side who are currently running also for the position of governor?
I believe we have 11 of them right now, Ronnie, and
11.
that's going to dwindle down. Yeah, 11's a big number, right? It's been a crowded field, but it's in the next few weeks here, we have to turn in all of our nominating signatures. You need, for a gubernatorial candidate in Michigan, 15,000 valid signatures in order to gain access to the primary election ballot. And excited to share with you here too, Ronnie, that my team and we've collected over 21,000 signatures nominating me onto the ballot. So even if we have an error rate of 1 in 4 signatures, we still have enough in order to get me onto the ballot. So we're going to be a choice in the primary election come this August in Michigan.
Perfect. And congrats on getting those 15,000 signatures, right? Because I know that's a very long process. When I ran for county commissioner last year, and also for this year, we need to get 100. Right. So I can't even imagine 15,000. But in your mind, though, who would you say within the GOP field is your main opponent for the nomination? If you had to pick like one or two candidates.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that there's probably maybe 4 to a half a dozen that are going to actually gain access to the ballot. So, without knowing exactly who that is going to be yet, it's hard to say exactly which competitors are going to be, the ones that I'm going to be going up against the most. If I had to guess, though, I'm going to say it's probably going to be James Craig, which is the former Detroit police chief, and probably Garrett Saldano, who I guess has already got the number of signatures that he needed to turn in as well. So it looks like he's going to be on the ballot as well. So I'm thinking probably those two right there. But I know that James Craig, he's been sending out some emails recently talking about how much he's struggling, how much he's not hitting his goals, and he's not able to really gain any traction. So we'll see how that one goes with him. But I know he's got a lot of time on Fox and some other places and got some pretty good name recognition. But on a debate stage, he's not going to do well against me.
Okay, so is James Craig sort of like the horse that the GOP in Washington are kind of backing, or have they kind of stayed like neutral?
Yeah, so neutral, right, quote unquote. But there's certain things that happen in the background in order to try to get dots to connect. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. And at the end of the day, I have to lift my own weight and I have to connect with the voters of Michigan. It's my job to make sure that I am providing an effective message of leadership, of solutions to our state, and for me to connect with the voters and not rely on somebody else to do that hard work for me.
Okay. Now, is your campaign, are you trying to reach out to maybe, to President Trump to get his support, or?
Just a few weeks back, I was down at Mar-a-Lago at an event where President Trump was at. So I was able to shake his hand and connect with him for a few moments there. I know that he's looking at the race here in Michigan and making the, educated decision of who he wants to get behind. I think it's going to be important, first and foremost, that we get past the threshold of who's on the ballot. I know he's supported Matt DePerno for Attorney General and Christina Caramo for Secretary of State. Neither one of them needed the nominating petitions. They just need the nomination at convention, what's coming up here in the very near future in Michigan. But President Trump needs to see who's going to be on the ballot first, and then take the best opportunity to connect with the candidates and find out who's going to be the strongest America First fighter that can ultimately defeat Gretchen Whitmer in November. She has a lot of money that is not campaign funds, it's state funds. She just signed a $4.8 billion additional appropriations bill in order to get all of this additional money to all these departments. She's using a lot of this money, just throwing it all around, trying to buy votes, and hoping people forget how she acted throughout 2020 and 2021. Okay. But I feel very confident that, when I connect with President Trump to discuss the nomination, that it'll at least be a really good conversation.
Now, in the state of Michigan, how much is it going to take? Like, how much does it cost to actually run for, governor? Like, how much are you going to have to raise during the primary?
That's a good question. So I think the primary can be won with a few $100,000, $500,000 or so, because we have a crowded field, and B, we have a huge group of really engaged people here in the state of Michigan. So I think it's going to be an interesting year for that. And I turned my eyes too as well to a couple of things. Number one, the truck driver down in Virginia that took out that Democrat down there with what do you have, $10,000 or something?
That's actually not in Virginia. That's right here in the great state of Jersey. I think you're talking about Ed Durst.
Yes,
that's right.
That was okay. So New Jersey. It happened in Virginia too. There was another guy in Virginia or similar, but yes, there you go. The guy in New Jersey. So he had a message that really resonated with people. And so it's a different kind of political environment. I look back to 2006 in Michigan, where Dick DeVos raised, and everybody knows the DeVos family, especially here in Michigan. He raised $45.5 million, where Jennifer Granholm raised 15.7, and Jennifer Granholm outraised Dick DeVos, outraised her by $30 million, but she still won by 14%. So I think it's going to be an interesting year in Michigan to see what message really resonates with the voter. And I know I have a lot of momentum statewide. So I think that financially wise, we're going to be able to do a lot more with a lot less, which is really what we truly need to eliminate a lot of this corruption in Michigan.
Okay. Now, in your mind, what would you say is the biggest problem that people in Michigan are facing today? Like, what is like the number one issue?
Right now, we have a couple of hot topics, obviously. The pandemic things that happened here, the lockdowns with Whitmer were extremely aggressive, but education is one of the top things in Michigan that have eyes all over the state on, and parents are not happy with the sexualization of our children in our schools. They're not happy with the pushing of critical race theory and these other social justice, whether it's curriculum or ideologies here in the state of Michigan. Whitmer recently made the statement that our public schools are a great spot for pushing social justice, and the Democratic Party recently made the statement here in Michigan publicly that they don't understand where parents get this idea that they should be involved in their children's education. So they've recently tried to reel back that education, or that statement on education, but nonetheless, that's still truly where their heart is. And it's one thing where parents are saying, hey, we want to be involved in our kids' school. We want to make sure that we have the best curriculum. So education is a very hot topic. I've been traveling all over the state, connecting with parents, connecting with teachers, going to school boards, and really standing for parents' rights, standing for true education instead of indoctrination. And I have a great plan laid out here, part of my 100-day plan in regard to education, where we can really make a direction change and provide a prosperous future to our children versus this future of indoctrination, where we see our testing scores are going down. Michigan's ranked 38th in the nation in student performance, and we're losing people. We just lost a congressional seat. We're losing people because of our faulty education system and many other Democratic policies that are pushing people out of Michigan.
Okay, so aside from education, what are some of the other main issues that you want to focus on in your platform?
Great question. My 100-day plan, which can be found on my website, ryandkelley.com, ryandkelley.com. You can see my 100-day plan there. Day number one with Governor Kelley, the pandemic is over in Michigan. We remove any mandates that are left. We still have some places around the state where kids are mandated to wear masks. There's some businesses that are still mandating masks around the state of Michigan. We end all mandates in Michigan. We end all emergency orders related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We allow doctors to prescribe effective treatments without government intervention. We still have the government getting involved in doctor-patient decisions, as well as no vaccine mandates, not in our state under Governor Kelley. One of the other major things as I've traveled around the state, Ronnie, is I hear from so many people election integrity. We know that the 2020 election, with all of the controversy surrounding the outcome, the process leading up to, here in Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State, was found guilty in a court of how she mishandled the mail-in ballots, as well as told clerks all around the state not to worry about signature validation on mail-in and absentee ballots, which is just a ripe process for fraud and many other ways to manipulate the election. So day number one with Governor Kelley in the state of Michigan, we canceled the Dominion, the ES&S, and the Hart electronic voting machine contracts so that we can lay the way for true election integrity here in the state of Michigan. You know, economy is an important issue, budget auditing, the Second Amendment, becoming a constitutional carry state, just like so many other states around this nation have recently signed constitutional carry legislation. We have a major mental health issue in the state of Michigan. Teen suicide is on the rise. I've spoke with many teachers and counselors around the state of the mental health crisis that has happened because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the masks on our kids, the lockdowns, the shutting down of schools. We have a lot of issues that we need to address here in the state of Michigan.
Great. So this is your first run for a political office for, governor. Why governor? Why not start off as like Congress or maybe U.S. Senate? Why did you choose to run for governor?
That's a great question. I see, like, if our state legislature, for example, when you become a state rep, you can have different policies that you're going to be able to whether vote on or encourage. But really, it's up to the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader for those things to really become reality. So you don't really get to help with the vision of the state, is where the governor gets a different opportunity to provide a vision for the state and a different direction for the state. And a lot of times when we work our way up through politics, that leads to a lot of the perpetuation of the corruption. So we see somebody gets in and they serve their time in the House and then they serve their time in the Senate. Maybe there's favors that are owed. Maybe there's other things along the way that have maybe put them at jeopardy to want to do the right thing for, whether it's for the people or whether it's for, whatever bill is being signed that's going to benefit not the special interests, but, the greater good. So with governor, and especially for the first time when I'm running for office, we get the opportunity to provide a vision for the state. I have very strong stances on our constitutional republic and what we need to do to protect those freedoms. And so I believe that it's important that we have people that are willing to stand up and do the right thing, that are not part of the, call it the swamp, call it the corruption, whatever it is, and be able to make a difference really, right out of the gate.
Okay, perfect. Now, speaking of the U.S. Senate, I believe there's when is the next U.S. Senate race? Is it coming up in 24?
And 24 for the state of Michigan. Debbie Stabenow's seat will be up again.
Okay, yeah. I think John James came really close in 2020, right? Is there
that
any
was
word out there?
2018? Yep.
Okay,
So he ran against Peters in 2020. 2018 was his first run against Stabenow, and he ended up losing the first time around. I was a big John James supporter, was there promoting him all over the state, helping him fundraise and get in front of a lot of people. And the second time, I feel like he walked away way too soon. Everything that happened in 2020, I feel like he gave up way too quick. He should have stayed in and contested it, not conceded right away.
Yeah, in 2020, he was actually leading, right? He was up.
He was. And then here comes the mail-in ballots.
Right.
Here comes, all the things that were ripe for the fraud process. And I feel he should have fought a little bit harder to let people know he is a fighter, right? And try to get to the bottom of what happened in 2020.
Now, is there any speculation or any word as to if he's going to run again in?
He's running for Congress right now, and I forget which district, but yeah, he stepped into a congressional seat, and he's going to try to go for Congress in 2022.
All right, great. Now, what does Ryan D. Kelley do for fun besides changing diapers? Because I know there's a lot of diapers that will be changed in the Kelley household, right?
There is, yeah. And gratefully so, our kids have all been potty trained at very young ages. So it's been a blessing to not have to change the diapers for an extremely long time. But the kids keep coming, so the diapers keep coming as well. A couple quick fun facts, I guess. Through 2019, just before 2020, my family and I, we took an RV trip around the country. So we like to camp. Those are one thing that we do for fun. I like to bow fish. I don't get to do that much anymore with everything that's happening now. But I enjoy some cigars every once in a while. I like to travel around the state and connect with people, and we talk about the race and other things as well. And that's probably about the extent of it there. I spend as much time with my wife as I possibly can. I enjoy being around my wife and being able to just chat and talk and sit back and relax. And that's probably about the extent of my fun these days.
All right. So I'm going to give you 1 to 2 minutes to give your best pitch to the voters of Michigan about why they should choose Ryan D. Kelley to become their next governor. Go.
Michigan is at a crossroads right now. We have to make sure we're picking the very best person, not only to defeat Gretchen Whitmer, but to realign this state with the values of a founding of our country. And throughout 2020, I've stood and I've fought for the people of Michigan. April 30th, we had the rally at the Capitol where we inspired the entire nation to stand up against these lockdowns. I spent the whole rest of the year making sure we got our voices heard. People know by my actions that I'm a fighter. When I talk about being Michigan first, when I talk about being America first, those aren't words that I speak. Those are actions that I've taken. And I think it's time for people that take action be the ones that represent us in Lansing and in Washington, D.C. So to send me to Lansing, to trust me, you can see with my actions that I've walked the walk and not just talked the talk. And as a father of 6 now and a husband and someone who aligns my life with God, my moral compass being strong in that direction, we know that in 2020, the actions that I've taken have aligned with the actions I'll take in 2023 and beyond when I get elected Michigan's governor. So in the primary election on August 2nd, Michigan, if you want a fighter, if you want somebody that has been standing strong, fighting with the people, for the people, and someone that will continue doing that all throughout 2023, 2024, and beyond, vote Ryan Kelley in our primary election so that we can defeat Gretchen Whitmer in November of 2022 and change this direction for the state of Michigan, a vision, our future of prosperity, a future of freedom, one where our kids are being educated, not indoctrinated, where our state has a strong, prosperous economy with less government regulation, without the government controlling every aspect of our lives, and someone that will reset this state here to align with our American principles, the founding of our country.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to learn more about Ryan's campaign, how you can get involved, and if you maybe want to donate, right, you can always go to www.ryandkelley.com. Kelley is spelled Kelley, ryandkelley.com. Mr. Kelley, I want to thank you so much for coming on our first show, and we wish you the best of luck in your campaign, and also we wish you the best of luck in raising your 6 beautiful children.
Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate you being on the show, and same to you. Wish you the best with your family as well. Let's make sure that we're raising them right.
All right. Thank you, Ryan, and we will speak to you soon. Okay?
Have a great day.
Bitter. Maybe you taste different. Hold up, baby.
All right. So that was my exclusive interview with Mr. Kelley. What a great guy, right? And 6 kids. 6 kids. I can't even imagine that. I've got 2 and my hands are full. But anyway, we want to thank Mr. Kelley for sitting down with us this week to talk to us about his candidacy for governor of Michigan. I believe that's a crowded field, and we wish him the best of luck. You know, last night, President Donald Trump had his rally in Michigan, and one of the individuals that Ryan spoke about was at the rally last night. I believe his name was Matt DePerna. He's running for, I think, Secretary of State, and we wish to have him on our show in the coming weeks. Wait, no, sorry. I think he's running for Attorney General. But anyway, Matt DePerna was endorsed by President Trump, and we hope to have him on in the coming weeks on our great show. Now, my next guest really needs no introduction since he was everywhere the past 2-3 years, right? Jack Ciattarelli ran for governor first in 2017, came up short in the nomination process. He immediately announced that he was running for governor in 2021, and Jack Ciattarelli was able to accomplish what no person has accomplished in over 100 years from either side of the political spectrum. When Jack Ciattarelli won the nomination last year, I believe he was the first person in over 100 years from either party to win all 21 lines in New Jersey. So that was a magnificent feat. He came super close to defeating Phil Murphy. And, Jack Ciattarelli has announced that it is his intention to run for governor again in 2025. So, if anyone can get the nomination and win it again with that kind of style and flair, I believe it is Jack. I think the first time I had Jack on my show last year in March, he had said to me that, New Jersey is the biggest small state in the country, because Jersey looks small, right? And it is small, but, it's very, very, it's a populated state. And when you're campaigning for a statewide office in this state, people actually expect you to be there, right? Because it's actually doable, right? So it's different than running for a statewide office in, like, let's say Texas or like a California, where it's so huge that you can't possibly get to every single corner of the state. But in New Jersey, you actually can, and that's exactly what Jack did. All right, so I'm very happy and honored that Jack was able to sit down with us this week to discuss, his campaign from last year, what he's doing now, and also what he plans on doing in the future. All right, so roll clip.
Maybe you taste different. Hold up, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to have as our second guest tonight on our first show on Salem Radio via AM 970, the great Jack Ciattarelli. Jack Ciattarelli was the GOP nominee for governor last year. He came razor thin to unseating Governor Phil Murphy. And, last year we saw a red wave in Jersey that saw many, many Democrats ousted, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with Jack Ciattarelli, with his energy and all the momentum that he brought to the race last year. So, Jack, I want to say thank you for working so hard. Thank you for being the face of our party and for giving so many people hope.
Well, Ron, thank you for the very generous introduction. It was a great election day up and down the state for Republicans. We'll talk about that more, I'm sure, over the course of this segment. But I also want to congratulate you. You've recently won the endorsement of the Bergen County Republican Organization to run for county commissioner. That's a big deal. Bergen County is the most populated county in all of New Jersey, critically important county. And I just love the fact that you've come back to run another race. And I'm very confident you're going to be successful this time.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, my ran last year, I came within 2.5 points, so I decided to keep on going. I actually never stopped running. I kept my campaign account open. So, I do realize that sometimes if you want to win a race, it takes two, right?
I've always said when people are running for the first time, I say, now you're signing up for two.
Right.
Listen, we're in it to win it that first time, for sure, as I was. But sometimes we come up a little short. You and I were right there. So I'm just very, very excited and proud of you to come back as you are.
Thank you so much, Jack. Now, Jack, for the one or two people in the world who may not know who Jack Ciattarelli is, can you give them a little rundown on your background and what brought you into politics?
I'm a lifelong New Jerseyan. The Ciattarellis have been here for 100 years, immigrated from Italy. I'm a product of the public school system, and I'm an MBA CPA from Seton Hall University. Melinda and I have been married for 27 years. We've got 4 magnificent children. Our daughter Alexis, 26, and soon to be 27. And the boys, 25, 23, and 21. And all very responsible adults and just very, very decent people. And we're very, very proud of them. I always say, Ron, you end up in this business one of 3 ways. Somebody in your family was in the business. That wasn't the case with me. Many people enter this because they were inspired by somebody. I know that you were inspired greatly by Ronald Reagan. The third way you get into this business, somebody recruits you. And when I came home from Seton Hall University with my MBA CPA, the mayor of my hometown, Raritan Borough in Somerset County, was a lifelong friend of the Ciattarellis. He came over the house and said, Jack, your family's been here for decades. You're an MBA CPA. We could use that kind of expertise on the borough council. Will you please run? So that's how I got into the business. I was recruited.
Okay, great. Now, so you were a councilman, you were an assemblyman, you were a freeholder. So you've pretty much been on every single level, right?
I have. It's a pretty unique background for somebody who's run for governor, having served at every level. As you said, council president on the borough council in Raritan. And then I was a 2-term freeholder director in Somerset County when they were freeholders. Today, they're county commissioners, as you soon will be.
Thank you.
And I did 3 2-year terms in the state legislature and the New Jersey General Assembly. And it was my up close and personal look at Trenton that told me I'm coming back here under only one condition: to sit in the executive chair and be the governor for the people of New Jersey and fix our broken state.
Right now, Jack, you did something that was very special last time around. I believe you actually set some sort of record, right? When you ran for governor last year, I think you were the only candidate or the first candidate in 100 years from either side of the party to actually win all the lines from all 21 counties in the state, right?
We worked very, very hard, and you're exactly right, Ron. I appreciate you bringing that up. I was humbled by the support. First candidate in 100 years on either side of the aisle in the primary to win all 21 counties. And that really sent a very strong message to New Jersey that Republicans were behind their candidate, and a very strong message to Phil Murphy that, hey, let's have a competition because we're in it to win it.
Okay. Now, speaking of the last race, what are your thoughts on it?
Hey, we were in it to win it, as I said, and I really did think we were going to pull out a razor-thin margin victory. We were right there. In fact, on Election Day, I beat Phil Murphy by 216,000 votes in in-person voting. He beat me by 275,000 votes through the mail. And let's face it, Democrats right now, Ron, are just doing a better job than we are of getting their low-propensity voters, supporters, to vote, whether it's by mail, early voting, or election day voting. And so one of the things that I'm working on over the course of the next 2 years is improving voter turnout. This was one of the best turnouts in the history of the state. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. More than 1 out of 2 New Jerseyans didn't vote.
Right.
And when you think about how important a race is for mayor or for county commissioner or for governor, we really have to educate people on the need to get out there and vote. And so that's what I'll be working on the next couple of years.
Okay. Now, Jack, when you narrowly lost the primary in 2017, right, you announced very soon afterwards that you planned on seeking the nomination in 2021, and you got it, right? When you gave your concession speech, right, last year, you also kind of announced that you also plan on seeking the nomination again in 2025. When you announced that, or when you said that you were planning on, was your wife like, oh my gosh, not again?
No, not one bit. She's in it to win it too. She's a great support system, as are the 4 children. And she was thrilled. I mean, that wasn't really the plan to make any kind of a announcement. After I gave my concession speech, the first asked question by the press was, what are your plans? And I said, well, I don't wish ill will on the governor. I'm not a hyper-partisan that way. I want the governor to be successful because I want New Jersey to be successful. I've got 4 children of my own, all in their 20s, trying to find their way in life and get their feet planted right here in New Jersey. I want the state to do well, but I just feel very strongly, Ron, that there's still going to be a whole lot of fixing to do. And so when I was asked, I said, it's my plan to run for governor.
Great. And I think when you said that, the audience, they went crazy, right?
Well, listen, I guess I don't know if people were surprised at just kind of that early a statement. I've always been very transparent. I'm not really very good at what I call the campaign or political choreography. People of New Jersey know BS when they hear it. They love when you just play it straight. So I was asked the question, and I just said what I honestly feel, in my heart, mind, body, and soul. It's my plan to run for governor again. And it did elicit a very, very favorable reaction from the crowd.
Perfect. Now, how do you think Governor Phil Murphy is doing so far into his second term?
Here's the good news. All of a sudden, he's talking about the things I talked about all throughout the campaign: common sense, the kitchen table, affordability in New Jersey, property tax crisis. Unfortunately, the budget he just introduced, Ron, doesn't really fix any of those problems. He's come up with the 333rd rebate program. That's not a permanent fix for our property tax crisis. We need a new school funding formula, and we need Trenton to stop taking money from municipalities and counties, whether it's for the 911 system or the energy receipts tax. That money belongs to municipalities. It belongs to counties. A new school funding formula belongs to the school districts. And with those things, we can solve the property tax crisis. But he's not fixing any of that. So he's starting to talk, but he's still not walking the walk.
Okay. Now, suppose you do run again in 2025, right? What will you do differently in 25 than you did in 21?
We're going to demonstrate the same kind of energy and conviction for fixing those things that ail New Jersey for sure. Number one, property taxes. We need a new school funding formula. Number two, making New Jersey a better place to do business, particularly for Main Street, small business. My parents owned a restaurant bar. We know a lot about this. I own my own small business. We need changes to the tax code. We need to downsize our state government. It's a monster. It's bloated, inefficient, and not responsive to citizens. Number four, we need to support local law enforcement. The job of police has never been harder. They need a governor who has their back. Number five, we need to get our public school curriculum back on track in teaching critical life skills. Okay, let's get back to the basics here and leave parenting to parents.
Right.
So those are the five things that we'll continue to focus on because it all resonated with New Jerseyans. And the other thing that I'll do much better, Ron, we did it well, but not well enough. We need to continue to make inroads as a Republican into the minority communities, Asian American communities, the Black community, the brown community. We did well there, but we need to do even better.
So if you had to choose something that you did in 2021 that you wish you had not done, would there be anything that you would have scrapped or done differently? Or,
you know, I can't. I don't look back with any regrets, Ron. Certainly, we learn more from failure than we do from success, and we're working on what it is that we need to do better. Mm-hmm. And you know, a 44% turnout for a governor's race is one of the highest of all time. But what it means is that more than 1 out of 2 people didn't vote. Now, I will tell you, there's a lot of people that didn't vote because they think the system is rigged or because they didn't think I had a chance. I think we've proven that both of those things are not the case. And I do sense a lot of, if you will, angry energy out there in the aftermath of the election. Jack, I didn't do anything because I didn't think you could win. Or Jack, I didn't vote because I thought it was rigged. But you've taught me otherwise. And so those are the things that we need to make sure of, just getting the word out there that we can win these races. And Ron, you alluded to this earlier, despite my loss. And again, I'm very disappointed in the outcome, but not in the effort. But it was the most successful night in 30 years for Republicans up and down the state. Do I wish we had more success in your home county of Bergen? You bet I do. But you and I are working on that.
Right.
But outside of Bergen, and by the way, we did have some great local wins in Bergen County at the municipal level. But we had some great wins all up and down the state. And we can mention a few if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, I think a few weeks ago in the township of Maywood, it was actually, you know, it was interesting because in one of the council races there, the Democrat and the GOP, you know, candidate, they tied. They actually tied, right? So there was a special election like a couple of weeks ago, and the Republican won.
The Republican won, and that's great news. Maywood is not a place that we typically win. But we won in other local races in Bergen County. 2 months ago, I swore in the first Republican county commissioner in Passaic County in decades. Down south, we won in Atlanta County, District 2 legislators, the county clerk. We won in Cumberland County. I'm the first Republican candidate to ever win Cumberland County in a governor's race. In Gloucester County, 2 county commissioner seats, plus a sheriff. We won in towns like Winslow and Camden County, where we've never won before. We won in District 3 and beat the Senate president. We won in District 8. We won in District 11. We picked up the the most seats in the state legislature in 20 plus years. And with the new legislative map, which will come into play in the 2023 election, Ron, when all 120 seats are back on the ballot, we've got our first opportunity in more than 20 years, a very legitimate opportunity for Republican majority in the state assembly and the state senate.
Yeah, I think after all was said and done, I think last year the Republicans picked up what, like 15 seats, 16 seats?
They did. It was a great number, and in every county we flipped seats. So, but now listen, the campaigning is the easy part. Okay, now it's time to govern, and you get elected with a very, very successful campaign. You get reelected with effective governance. So the campaign is over. Everybody was sworn in January. Now it's time to govern, and I'm confident that we will.
Great. Now, what does this say to you? Because, last year for months, leading up to the race, there were like every single poll out there had Governor Murphy beating you by like 10 points, 15 points, right? So what does it say when the final result was that close? Is the media, are they intentionally trying to, mislead the, public, or do they just not know how the people really feel?
Well, the media doesn't do the polling. The media reports on the polling,
right.
And certainly they fell right into the trap of what the polling provided. And we were very disappointed with the public polling done out of some of our universities here in New Jersey, whether it was Monmouth or Stockton. We felt all along in every one of those polls that Republicans were underrepresented. If at the end of the day, Republicans are going to be 1 out of every 3 votes, why would you do a poll that has Republicans only being 1 out of 5 people polled?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. And if you're only going to poll, if in any poll only 1 out of 5 people is going to be a Republican, I'm telling you now that Lincoln, Eisenhower, Reagan are not going to do well in that poll. Right. So it was very disappointing that the pollsters went about business. One of them wrote a column 2 days after the election. It says, I said I blew it. And boy, oh boy, did he. It suppresses the vote, because for a lot of people who were maybe thinking of voting for Ciattarelli, see the poll and says, why should I bother? So, but listen, these are the challenges. And we just got to plow through that. What I'm most proud of with the final tally and with all the wins up and down the state that you and I just talked about is we proved once again that New Jersey is not a blue state. It's a purple state.
Right.
It's a purple state. And there are 2.5 million unaffiliated independent voters that truly dictate the outcomes of statewide elections. And I firmly believe that when we Republicans, all 1.5 million of us, pay close attention to those unaffiliated independent voters, I say advantage Republicans. And when we're resonating with the unaffiliated independent voter, we're also resonating with what I call soft Democrats. And we can win these elections.
Yep. Now, this year, 2022, is a very big year, right? The U.S. House is up for grabs, U.S. Senate. What are your thoughts on 2022?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Ron, because last year being a gubernatorial year and all 120 seats being up, all the focus seems to be on 2023 and 25, particularly 2023 because of the new legislative map. Well, let's not forget, this is a congressional year. All 435 seats in the House of Representatives are at the top of the ballot this year. We've got 12 congressional seats in New Jersey. Right now, it's 10-2 Democratic.
Right.
I really believe we're going to pick up 2, 3, 4 seats at the very least this November. I've never seen a better crop of candidates to complement our 2 incumbents, Jeff Andrew and Chris Smith.
Right.
This crop of candidates, I see diversity. I see both genders. I see all colors, and I see a lot of energy. And so I'm very, very, very much looking forward to this November's races. And I'll be out there trying to help as best I can our candidates to get elected. Just last week, Melinda and I hosted a fundraiser right here in our house for our candidate, Tom Kean Jr.
Right. Great. Yeah. Last week I saw you at the NJGOP Summit, and Tom Kean Jr. spoke, Chris Smith spoke, Jeff Andrew, and also the great Dr. Ben Carson, right? How great was that? What a speech, right?
It was a great speech. It was forceful, but also very elegant.
Right.
And those are not two words you can usually use to describe a keynote address by a political figure. But boy, oh boy, was he compelling. He had all 500 people in the palm of his hand for the 30 minutes that he spoke. It really was a great, great way to end our 2-day summit in Atlantic City, which was extremely well attended. And all the programming with the panels, the moderators, and the audience participation, just very, very compelling, very, very valuable. And I think a lot of people went home with a number of pages now in their playbook to help us better position ourselves to win elections.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the congressional races going on this year, and you mentioned that, there are 12 seats in, Jersey, right? If you had to predict which districts you think we can flip this year, what would you say?
All 10 that we currently don't hold.
Okay, great.
And listen, I say that in fairness to all 10 of our challengers. Certainly our 2 incumbents, I'm confident, are going to win, not because we're taking anything for granted. It's because they are 2 great campaigners, Chris Smith and Jeff Van Drew. Despite the fact that they have to spend significant time in Washington, they never forget the people back home. But I'm telling you, Ron, the other 10 challengers are lights out, and there's a lot of energy. And if the Ed Durr victory over Senate President Steve Sweeney teaches us anything, is that everyone is vulnerable right now, and no one is unbeatable, and nothing should be taken for granted. So I think we're going to see a number of very significant wins up and down the state.
Okay. Now, let's move on to a little bit more of a fun question, right? So what does Jack Ciattarelli do for fun when he's not campaigning? And don't say campaigning.
Well, listen, I very much like work around the house. In fact, just today, my son and I were chopping wood. We live on a heavily wooded lot adjacent to the Ciattarelli Mountains. We lost a number of trees over the past year, and although I wish they were still alive, they're going to provide some great firewood. So those trees were cut down, and we've been splitting a lot of wood. I love working around the property. My wife and I last week were in Florida for a couple of days, enjoying the sun. We very much enjoy the beach and ocean swimming, and I look forward to the Jersey Shore always, July, August, and September. We've had a home down in Surf City now for nearly 3 decades, and the Jersey Shore is just great for us. I also love the bicycle, and so while I use the stationary bike here at the house to stay in shape, I look forward to spring and summer where I can get outside on my performance bike or my road bike and get out there and enjoy New Jersey. So those are just some of the things I do in addition to reading. I just finished Team of Rivals. I kind of am an
You're a big, when it comes to Abe Lincoln, you know him like no one else, right?
Well, I'm here in my study, and there are Lincoln books everywhere. I just finished Team of Rivals, which I think is my 12th Lincoln book. I just started my 13th, Lincoln on the Verge, which tells the story of his journey from Springfield to Washington on his way to being sworn in under very, very challenging and difficult circumstances. There are death threats everywhere. There are Southerners that have infiltrated the North looking to assassinate Lincoln. He doesn't have a Secret Service detail of 50 people, but somehow, some way makes it to Washington, somehow, some way navigates our country through its most perilous times.
Yeah. Now, Jack, supposing that you do run for governor in 2025, right? I'm going to give you the next 2 minutes to give your best pitch to the listeners now as to why they should choose Jack Ciattarelli for governor in 2025.
There was a poll out last week, Ron, that asked people how they felt about New Jersey, and more than 1/3, 36%, which is 3.3 million New Jerseyans, said they wanted to leave the state, that they couldn't wait to leave. That's not the state I want to be governor of. We're number 1 in the nation, or last, if you will, in property taxes. We have a persistent property tax crisis that makes the state impossible for young people to get started, impossible for the middle class to get ahead, impossible for our seniors to retire. I want to fix that. We also have in New Jersey a business climate crisis. It is well known that New Jersey, because of taxation and regulation, is the most challenging place in the country to do business, particularly for Main Street small business owners. I want to fix that. And if we can take care of those things, I think a great many more people will want to live their lives here, making New Jersey a place where you can live, work, start a business, raise your children, retire, all the above. So, like I said before, I don't wish ill will on the governor. I want him to be successful because I want New Jersey to be successful, because when New Jersey's successful, people are going to love it here. Everyone. We won't have 3.3 million people who desperately want to leave. And so my background is very unique from an educational standpoint, MBA, CPA. My background is very unique from a political standpoint. We've never had a governor that served at the municipal, county, and legislative level. My background is very, very unique with regard to my business experience. I'm a two-time successful small business owner. I've created jobs right here in New Jersey. So I look forward when the time comes. It is my intention, it is my plan to run again. And when that time comes, I look forward very much to getting back out there on the trail with New Jerseyans every single day and communicating that message.
Perfect. And, I think Jersey is unique in the sense that there has been a precedent where gubernatorial candidates ran twice and they win it their second time, right? And I think it happened to Jim McGreevey, to Jim Florio, to Kristen Todd Whitman, right? So there's a pattern of that happening, right?
Awareness is really, really important for candidates, Ron, and that's the great benefit of you coming back after last year's very close race to run again. Everyone that voted for you last year, Ron, is going to vote for you again. Those that didn't get to know you last time are going to vote for you because they're going to get to know you this time. And there's going to be people that didn't vote for you last time. They're going to say, look at that guy. I like the perseverance. I like the determination. And I like that he's coming back. That says a lot about his character. I'm going to vote for him this time. So you're spot on in terms of what name ID and awareness means to the viability of a candidate.
Right. Well, I hope that I can win this time. And, when I do win, I hope that you can come and, swear me in.
Ron, that would be my great honor. And one of the great stories, I know you and I do not plan on losing 6 times.
Right.
But Abraham Lincoln lost 6 elections before being elected president of the United States.
Okay. Now, Jack, your campaign site, is that still up?
I'm sorry?
Your campaign website.
No, it is not, Ron.
Okay.
I'm not an official candidate. It's my intention to run. It's my plan to run. But all that comes down. I'm working on something very different called Fixing New Jersey, which is a 501c4. It's not dedicated to getting any one person elected. It is a political organization dedicated to improving voter turnout. And so that's what we're working on today. Right. And that, as well as getting Republicans elected at the municipal, county, congressional level this year, is where my energies are.
Great. Well, Jack Ciattarelli, I want to thank you for being a great friend, for being a great candidate, for being the great savior, right? That brought hope to the NJGOP, to our entire state. And, I really do hope you run in 25. And if and when you do, I will be right there.
Ron, I greatly appreciate the kind words. They're well received. But first things first, let's get Ron Lynn elected county commissioner of Bergen County.
Thank you, sir. And I want to thank you for being one of the first guests to come on my show on Salem Radio. We broadcast live on Salem Radio via AM 970 every Sunday night from 8 to 9 p.m. And I want to thank Jack Ciattarelli for being the first guest on my show. Well, actually, technically the second guest, right? But thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ron. Great to be with you again.
Thank you.
Bitter. Maybe you taste different. Hold up, baby.
Okay. What a show. What a guy, Jack Ciattarelli. I remember last year, last year, during the Lincoln Day dinner in Bergen County, Jack Ciattarelli was the keynote speaker, right? And Lincoln Day dinner is, as you guessed it, it's a day that we honor President Lincoln. And Jack Ciattarelli was invited that year to be the keynote speaker. And I swear, he spoke for 45 minutes, no notes, no teleprompter, no anything. He spoke straight for 45 minutes about Lincoln and about his story. So when it comes to Abe Lincoln, Jack Ciattarelli is a master at knowing every single tidbit about Abe Lincoln's life. And it was really awesome, right? It was just awesome to hear him say that speech, because I thought he had like no cards or something, but no, he was just speaking just off the cuff. But he had that speech like down tight, So Jack Ciattarelli, what a guy. I really do hope he runs again in 2025. And there was no other candidate out on the trail last year or in recent memory with as much energy and and gave as much hope as Jack Ciattarelli did, right? He gave a lot of hope to the people of the state, to our party, and he really, really turned out the vote. But like Jack said, right, he's working on his new project now, which is to help turn out the vote. Because, with all the energy that we had last year, despite all that energy, a lot of voters still sat home, right? So if we're ever, if we're going to try to win in the future, we need Republican voters to turn out, right? We need the moderates, we need the independents, but we just need voters to turn out. Because if you sit at home and just sit at home and complain and whine, nothing's going to happen, right? We've got a few comments here from our audience. My biggest fan, Basil, the best Jack for governor of NJ. Jack was everywhere and hoped the voters of New Jersey regret they didn't get out the vote. Yeah, elections have consequences, right? We see that right now on the national level. Look at all that has transpired under President Joe Biden. And all of this could have been averted if, the election had gone a different way. So elections have consequences, not only on the federal level, on the state level, on the county level, but they have a big impact everywhere. Another comment from my other great friend, John Azariti, who is councilman in Saddle River. Great show. Congratulations and all the best. Thank you, councilman. We hope to have you on our show. I keep trying to get the councilman on my show, but he's always too busy cooking. John Azariti is a brilliant doctor, right? He's an anesthesiologist. He's a councilman. He is very, very busy, but he always finds time to cook up like these gourmet meals. He posts these photos on Facebook. I look at them at 2 a.m. and I get hungry. And, part of the reason I've gained all this weight is because of Azariti. So I blame him. All right. But anyway, we love him and we hope to have him on our show at some point. All right, guys. So tonight was our premiere show on AM 970. If you don't know, we're actually streaming on Facebook, right? On Rumble, on GETTR, at the same time that the radio show is airing on Salem. So what you're seeing here on Facebook right now is actually live, right? And it's a little different than what you will hear on the radio show, because on the radio show, it is recorded prior, right? But right now, what you're seeing right here, right now, this is completely live. So you can either catch me on the radio, catch me on Facebook Live, catch me on Rumble, on GETTR. But any way you catch me, please just find a way to watch me or to listen to me and spread the word about our great show. Next week, we have another great show. I believe one of our guests next week is Jeanette Skinner. She is running for Congress in Florida. Okay. And, for the next weeks upon weeks upon weeks, we've got guest after guest after guest. Great guests, right? Guests that you will see, nowhere else besides here, and possibly like Newsmax and Fox News, right? So we are the fastest growing political talk show here in New Jersey. Today was our premiere airing on Salem Media Group via AM 970. So please tune in on radio if you can watch us on Facebook. And if you know of folks that don't really use Facebook or social media, get them to listen to the radio, right? I know a lot of people listen to the radio, so tell them to tune in on AM 970. But if you do use social media, I do suggest for you to follow me on GETTR. Okay, you can find me via my handle at Ronald Joseph Lynn, and you can find our show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble by searching for Real Talk with Ronnie. And I haven't really promoted this all too much, but you can actually find all this if you go to my website, realtalkronnie.com. realtalkronnie.com. And if you want to come on my show, you better contact us as soon as you can, because like I said, we are packed. We are booked for the next few weeks, next few months. So please email us at realtalkwithronnie@gmail.com and let us know who you are, what you want to talk about, and we will try our best to get you on our show to fit you into our calendar. Okay? All right, guys. So it has been a pleasure. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I first started Real Talk with Ronnie as like a passion project back in 2020. It was exactly on April 5th, right? April 5th, 2020. That's when I live streamed my first show. And at that point, I was just talking about COVID. I was interviewing all my different friends from all different countries about how COVID was affecting them. And then, it eventually evolved into talking about politics. And here we are today talking to the biggest names in politics and news and society and culture. And, and I couldn't have done it without my guests and without viewers like you who watch us and make us into the show that we are. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, for being great fans. And I love you all, right? So, last Friday, I premiered my first show with Diana, my good friend, called Real Matters. So that's another show that's going to be airing. We're going to be doing that show initially just once a month, right? But as we roll it out, we will have more shows. And in the coming weeks, in the coming months, possibly we will have bigger news to unveil to you guys about the future of Real Talk with Ronnie. So we're very excited for all that's happening to our show, for all the exciting things that's happening, right? It is indeed a good time, and let's keep it going. All right, guys. So it is April 3rd, 2022. You're now watching Real Talk with Ronnie. My name is Ronald Joseph Lynn, and I will see you here next week. Thank you and good night.